Hello and welcome to Cheers to Fears, where we take horror films and turn them into drinking games. We're your two hosts. I'm Alex.
And I'm Tucker. Today we will be making a drinking game for Slender Man because it's pretty much the only way you're going to be able to watch this movie is with alcohol. Slender Man is directed by Sylvain and written by David Burke, and the creation of the character was made by Victor Surge, which skyrocketed into internet fame seemingly out of nowhere. From there, a movie was developed but took way too long to release, which certainly did not help the movie at all, as Slender Man was out of the mainstream media for multiple years at this point.
In Slender Man, a group of high school women go and play a video to summon Slender Man. A week later, one of the friends, Katie, mysteriously goes missing. The friends discover that she was invested into Slender Man and was doing research at him at the same time that she did go missing. Meanwhile, the other girls are also seeing hallucinations of Slender Man as they start to realize that Slender Man is after them as well.
At this point, we will be getting into spoilers for the movie Slender Man. If for some reason you are forced to watch this movie because of a dare and you don't want spoilers, we recommend you pause the video and use our drinking rules posted on screen now. With that out of the way, let's move on to the rules.
So the first rule is death, but this one's a little bit more weird because it's going to be whenever somebody goes missing or whenever somebody is kidnapped, because at times it's not really clear, but yeah, it's implied.
Yeah, some of the deaths are kind of ambiguous in this movie, like I don't know if people die or don't die. It's hard to know.
With that being said, if you watch the trailer, you realize that there should be more deaths in the movie, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
So for example, one thing that happened is nobody really knows what happens to Chloe unless you saw the trailer. But yeah, she just kind of disappears from the movie, even though it's mentioned at the end when the sister is doing her dialogue that she did die or did go missing.
Yeah. So after our death rule comes screams, cries, and yells, which is obviously our second rule, and that gave us 23 sips. There's nothing new here, horror movie, screaming. There's quite a bit of screaming in this movie.
Yeah.
Chloe, come on! Chloe!
But just imagine them freaking out in a public place, like a library, for example, as everybody else is just kind of looking at them.
Yeah.
Not knowing what's going on.
And so our next rule is whenever they mention the internet friend, username AlleyCat93, you take a sip. I will mention that this is a stupid fucking name for anybody who has a username like this. The main reason I think this is because you want to do a spooky, scary Slender Man movie. You should do something more kind of mysterious, but it has just a username that a 7-year-old would use.
Yeah, and I don't know how old the person was, but they were probably in high school or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Either way, the only other thing to say about this rule is it gave us 7 sips, so it happened on occasion. It wasn't too frequent, but it was enough to make a rule out of it, and it was something, related to the plot, I guess. So we'll move on to the next rule, which is rule number 4, and it's whenever somebody talks about Katie's disappearance, you take a drink. So that happened 11 times.
Yes. The movie is somewhat revolved around by this.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
And where is she?
Yeah, she still hasn't answered any of my texts.
There isn't really a plot in the movie. We'll point that out now. You could argue that it's trying to find out how to get rid of the Slender Man sickness or something like that, but there's no real direct motive. It feels like their livelihood is at stake, but most of the times they don't even believe it. In saying that, the one thing that is in the movie is Slender Man. We counted 32 instances where we saw him in the movie.
And I guess it's worth saying that is rule 5.
Yeah.
Just to point that out. Obviously there is going to be a lot of Slender Man in a Slender Man movie, but it happens a lot more than you'd expect because there's there's drawings of him, which we counted, and then he pops up so many times in the hallucinations or just in the background. Yeah, there was a lot of scenes where it was kind of just mercy too. So it happened a lot more than I expected, not gonna lie.
It happened about as much as I expected. I honestly forgot about all the drawings and things like that, online where you find pictures of him. I forgot about all that, so that definitely bumped up the number a little bit.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on to rule number 6, which is also related to Slender Man. It's whenever Slender Man is said. And this happens 9 times in the movie.
So they're getting together tonight at Tom's house in his garage to summon Slender Man.
Yeah, I guess it's not Candyman, so it's said less, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
Now on to rule number 7, drink whenever somebody hallucinates.
Yeah, and that gave us 8 sips for this movie. Pretty much the only thing to say is it was executed so poorly for the most part. some of the hallucinations just, I don't know, it's way too edited. I mean, it's hard to explain really, but like they're just very flashy and they don't look good. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain what I'm thinking, but
Yeah, well, like the other thing is they just do it in a way to scare the characters rather than do like something emotional.
Yeah.
That was the main problem I had with it. So, for example, like Hallie, or whatever the one character's name is, they could have used her like sister dying or seeing something like that to traumatize her, as opposed to actually just like scare her.
yeah.
That's the thing. I feel like a lot of the scares in this movie tries to make the audience like feel on edge, but it not only doesn't work. The main problem is that there's just no consequences, or like it doesn't really affect the main characters in any way.
Yeah. Anyways, on to the next rule. It's something that happens 16 times in the movie, and that's whenever you see a forest.
Second to last for rules, we have Slenderman mythology. So like if we see a book that he's based off of, or like any lore behind him, that's a sip. We got a total of 6 sips in this rule.
Yeah, an example of this is like them explaining how to get rid of Slenderman, or like even the myth around how he's kind of like the Pied Piper. Stuff like that is what you're going to be looking out for, and it doesn't happen all that much, but it's still enough to make it a rule.
Yeah.
And moving on to our final rule, it's whenever you hear a bell, and that happens 7 times in the movie. Sometimes it's like a classroom bell, sometimes it means that Slenderman is coming, but any sort of bell that you're going to want to drink for.
Yeah, when you hear it constantly, then it's just still a full drink. Even if
Yeah.
you just hear it like, oh, the bell rings 3 times. We learned that rule from our, I think, Annabelle creation drinking game, where we were just drinking non-stop for Mrs. Mullins ringing her stupid fucking bell. So we changed it a little bit for this one.
Yeah.
So that does it for the rules, and for the totals, we got 126 sips. That's the equivalent of drinking 4 standard 12-ounce cans, and that goes along with our 30 sip per can scale.
Yeah, and typically for a normal drinking game, I would say this would be a good, solid drinking game.
Yeah.
But for this movie, I would have welcomed more drinks.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
to get through it. Like some of the Slenderman drawings gave us a lot of drinks because he was in the drawings and we counted it as separate from seeing him in person. And honestly, that like drawings could have been a rule on its own.
Yeah.
But we wanted to make seeing Slenderman higher, so we included it together just to try and get some more drinks in there.
Yeah. So on to the movie. There's a lot of problems.
To say the least.
Yeah, to say the least. So first of all, as we kind of alluded to earlier, there's no narrative for the movie. For example, as we said, you could argue that they're trying to find their missing friend or get rid of Slenderman. But the point is that I think they already alluded to, like, oh, maybe she hated her father, so she wanted to disappear.
Sometimes I wish I could just leave.
You know, maybe she had an alcoholic father, and maybe she hated her life, and maybe she talked about running away all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So they're basically chasing their friend who, like, wants to be dead at that point. So they go on, I feel like, a goose chase that feels absolutely pointless.
Yeah. And another thing is Katie's dad breaks into the house for almost no reason. Like, I know he said that he's, like, blaming them for her getting into the, what is it? Occultic stuff. Yeah. Anyways, the main reason he's even there is to kind of scare the audience, I think, because like there's no other effective reason to put him in there.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like what would have been better for the plot, like, I get it, you don't want an old man in your movie that's directed for teenagers.
Yeah.
But it would make more sense if they just worked with the father, because they just want the same thing, which is
To find
Katie.
Yeah, exactly. And then Haley or Hallie, whatever her name is, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't care enough.
She refuses to believe Ren for some reason. Like when Ren is explaining Slenderman to her, she's just not really believing it.
Something happened, and she knows it. Something happened back there.
You're right. We didn't get Katie back. That's what happened.
And then she goes to Tom's house and he puts records on instead of Netflix. I don't know, he makes a silly face and then ruins the mood. She's hallucinating the face, I guess, and I don't know. I don't understand it really, but she then proceeds to tell Tom about the video and he ends up watching it. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like what Tom should have done instead is he should have just put the Slender Man movie, which is on Netflix, on,
Yeah.
and then she would have just got so bored that she would have slept with him. He's thinking about it all wrong. Put on a bad movie so she doesn't pay attention to that. She pays attention to you, Tommy boy.
Yeah.
So I guess we did mention, like, Tom and his stupid fucking face. The movie tries to be creepy to be creepy. There's no real intent or reason for it. So like one example is like the girl with the really long hair getting her hair brushed in the hospital. It doesn't really serve any purpose. It's just there to look creepy or unsettling. But realistically, like who the fuck leaves a door open in a hospital when you're giving a patient a bath?
Yeah, like so many of the scenes, just like you said, were there to only try and be creepy. And I think it would have been fine for a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Like that would have been an entertaining, 15, 20 minute YouTube video, but like it's not a fucking movie if you're just gonna put creepy imagery the entire time and not have a plot.
Yeah. There was actually one fake jump scare in the movie that I liked. It was, I believe it was the actual actor who plays Slender Man just walking down the hallway and the character, I think Halley's getting like freaked out, and then she realizes it's just a doctor. I feel like that's a good way to like kind of explain how she's getting paranoid.
Yeah.
That's so much better and so much more effective to like kind of portray that she's getting scared, she's getting paranoid, like she can't control this.
Yeah.
She's just afraid of everything, even like normal things, right?
Yeah.
That's the only thing the movie does right, and it's one scene, and I don't even think they intended to do that. And just even like the dialogue's bad, I'd say. So I remember there was one quote in the movie, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people mention it. He's like a virus, and he infects your hard drive, but it's not your hard drive, it's your brain. Ooh.
Yeah.
She told me everything. He gets in your head like a virus.
What kind of virus?
Like a computer virus that infects your hard drive, but instead of your hard drive, it's your brain.
Ren?
So I guess more on to the main reason that we could logically think of as why the film did so bad is just the whole production around it.
Yeah.
So, for example, there was a real life like attempted murder with two little girls wanting to kill their friend or attempted to kill their friend because they said Slender Man told them to do it.
Yeah.
So that left a very bad taste in some people's mouths that they were making this movie after that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it actually caused more delays or anything, but it's very likely that it did.
Yeah.
And obviously the more that your movie is delayed, the more irrelevant it becomes, especially when it's on like pop culture, like Slender Man all over the internet and stuff. Obviously that's gonna come and go pretty quickly, so if you wait on it, then it's not gonna be as good or relevant, And it also doesn't help that because of that incident with the little kids you mentioned, they had to, well, they didn't have to, but they chose to cut a lot of the content to try and be, more respectful of that incident, I guess, and try to like, not have a bad image in the mainstream media by including some of the stuff that they cut out.
Yeah.
But like, it's still in the trailer. So if you go and watch the trailer, right now there's like at least 3 scenes that weren't in the movie that are in the trailer.
Yeah, and like I'd say they were pretty big scenes, but 25% of the trailer just doesn't happen in the movie. And you're just like, oh, I wish that was in the movie. Like there was a scene where like I think Chloe like tries to gouge out her own eye.
Yeah.
Which would have been great. There was another scene where Tom's jumping off a building, and I can't make out the other character. Maybe it's one of the main girls. But she has like blood covered all over her face and has the cops coming to her like as she's just like exiting the forest.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much left undiscovered for the movie. But I feel like it would have helped out at least a little bit to see those scenes.
And it also, especially in some cases, would have provided more context for stuff that happens later.
Yeah.
Or explain some things.
Yeah,
like,
I would have explained like what the fuck happened to Chloe.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I really wish they didn't cut it out, but I also at the same time understand why they did. But I think it would have been better off just to scrap the whole idea. But there was millions of dollars put in at this point, so
exactly.
They weren't gonna do that.
I guess one example that I can directly pull from this is Marble Hornets. It was another Slender Man-esque production, but it was very popularized and I guess kind of started the craze of Slender Man. It was all on a single camera, and it was still done so much better than this piece of garbage. And I guess what they should have tried is they should have tried to contact them and get advice on what they should do.
Yeah.
Yeah, or at least try to do something to kind of make it similar, because you have one thing that succeeds, which isn't blatantly ripping it off, I'll say. But like you're kind of getting the same idea, and you just aren't taking advice from the people who've actually done it well.
Well, exactly. So overall with this movie, I don't think I need to ask, but I will anyways. What were your overall thoughts on it?
My overall thoughts is there's a reason we made a drinking game for it, and that is to make the movie tolerable.
Yeah.
In saying that, my whole like breakdown of the movie is just watch Marvel Winners instead. If you want to watch a Slender Man movie or Slender Man anything, it's all free on YouTube. You can watch it there. They might have stood more of a chance if the movie was a TV series because you could actually like develop on your characters and things like that, and kind of see their descent into madness instead of like ooh spooky Tom face bye. But just a lot of it was so poorly executed.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and I don't really have much more to say on it other than I was just bored throughout the whole movie because like they tried to do the creepy imagery and it just didn't work for me because there was no reason for it to work. Like they didn't provide any other context other than it's just creepy. Here you go.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna watch this movie ever again.
And we're not talking about the creators this time around, but we are talking about the Darwin Awards, where we award one not-so-lucky nominee the Darwin Award. This award goes out to a character that made a stupid decision that resulted in them getting killed, somebody else getting killed, or simply resulting in something bad happening that could have been easily avoided. This award can also be given to a character that is just plain dumb. Here are the nominees.
Today's first nominee is Mr. Jensen for breaking into Hallie's house and promptly getting arrested.
Next up is Chloe for immediately taking off her blindfold, even though it was said that if she did, she would be messed up for life if she saw Slender Man.
The final nominee today is Tom for watching the video after Hallie said to not watch the video that caused the disappearance of her friends and caused hallucinations.
And the winner is Chloe. Chloe is probably the worst listener I have ever met. If she doesn't believe in the whole Slender Man taking her friend thing, she could have just stayed at home and not destroyed the only picture she had left of her dad. If she did, there was no good reason for her to take off her blindfold, as this caused Slender Man to find and target her.
And with all that being said, we hope you enjoyed today's episode on Slender Man. If you end up playing the game alongside the movie, or if you have any feedback or suggestions, let us know in the comments below. Also let us know in the comments what you could have done to make this movie better.
Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next week's episode, where we are going to be making a drinking game for Misery. If you want to check out our most recent video, click on the box on the top right, or if you want to see a playlist of all the drinking games and horror movies we review, click on the box below it. Thanks for tuning in, and this is us saying
Cheers to fears.